This is a rotation. This one doesn't have anything funny to remember, just like a translation is a slide, like the SL, and a reflection is a flip with the FL. A rotation, well, it's just rotating. It's pretty simple on that part. And then the rest of it, just like all of the other ones, just like with reflections, like we mentioned, all it is remembering your algebraic representations. All right. So this is going to be a turn around a fixed point called the center of rotation. So pretty much where you are rotating from. Now the figure rotates at a specific angle and direction. All right, and we are going to write down the rules for rotating counterclockwise about the origin. And this part right here is super important. All rotations are counterclockwise unless specifically stated otherwise. So unless if they say it, don't assume, just be like, okay, it's counterclockwise. If it doesn't say it, counterclockwise. But always check what it says. All right, now the way this ends up working, okay, and this is what helps me remember, is that I know that this is 90 degrees counterclockwise. And while I know that the table says it up there, I still want to write it down. Okay, so this is counterclockwise. Now, counterclockwise, by the way, is going in this direction. Clockwise, on the other hand, goes like a clock. That's where that word comes from. And it goes to the right. So if I was going to the right, to get to 90 degrees counterclockwise, I would have to go 1, 2, 3 90-degree quadrants, meaning 270 degrees clockwise. I would have to go 1, 2, which would be also 180 degrees clockwise. So check that out. 180 degrees counterclockwise or clockwise is going to get you the same exact thing. All right, and then 270 counterclockwise is the same as just 90 degrees clockwise. And you do not have to draw these arrows in these different colors, but I am showing them to you so that you know where it's all coming from. Now, the way that I set up all of these algebraic representations is like normal. They're all going to start off with xy goes to your original point. Your pre-images point is going to go to the image or the prime points. All right. And here's how I help myself remember. The counterclockwise ones and everything, those are pretty easy with the 180 in the sense that, well, a 180, if you do a 180, you're completely changing how you stand. So if you were for something, you're now against it, meaning you've changed your sign. All right, so that's how that helps me remember. And pretty much a 180 is a double 90 degrees. And we can go into that if you'd like at the end, and I'll show you. Now, with 90 degrees, when it's doing this, you'll notice that the orientation has swapped. Point B was on the right, and now it's moved all the way to the top of the screen. So what happens is your Y and your X values are going to change. And one of them is going to be negative. Okay? Or what that means is you're going to be changing the sign. Remember, negative means change signs. And it's going to be on this one. And the reason I know it's going to be on that one is because it's 90 degrees counterclockwise and it's going to the left. And check it out. The one on the left is the negative one. Similarly, we can do this one right here. Same thing, YX. And now I like to remember them again with the 90 degrees version. If you know the 90 degree and then which one gets the negative, then this will be super easy for you. So with 90 degrees clockwise, it's going to the right, and so the one on the right is having that negative right there. So see, we've got going to the right, 90 degrees, and look, the one on the right has the negative. Whichever way you're turning 90 degrees, to the left or to the right, that's the one that's going to have it. So even if I were to tell you, hey, I'm going to turn something 270 degrees clockwise, think about, well, how many, that is 90 degrees counterclockwise. Well, that's easy to remember. If you know your 90s and your 180s, you'll be set. Now, you do need to memorize these rules, but you will not be required to use any other angles of rotation. Those of you wondering, how did I get the 181? Check this out. If this is your original 90 degrees counterclockwise, and I rotate this another 90 degrees counterclockwise, it means I'm going to swap both of these. Because it was 90 degrees counterclockwise to the left, the one on the left is the one that gets the negative. And check this out, because you've rotated it 90 degrees twice, which is 180 degrees, you get 180 degrees is that representation. That's what ends up happening. All you're doing is you just keep applying that 90-degree representation. All right? You do not need to show this, but this is for your knowledge. Okay, so we've got 3 different examples, and I'm going to set each of them up for you. It is your responsibility to finish. Right, and we are going to make one tiny change. On number 3, these two were supposed to be negative. It's the y values on L and M. And on number 1, B is supposed to be in the negative. Okay, so let's go and see. We've got 90 degrees counterclockwise, which means you're going 90 degrees to the left, right? So we know to set up any 90-degree representation, you're going to go X, Y, and then swap your Y and X. And then it's the one on the left. So the one on the left is going to swap the sign. So let's set it up. And the way that I do it is I take these points right here and I swap them when I'm writing them in. So I've got 2, 7, they've swapped. -6, -5, swapped. 4, 1, swapped. Now I have to switch the signs of anything that is on the left. If you think I have to switch the signs of the Y, this is where it can get confusing. So think left. And we're going to swap the signs. This becomes a negative. This becomes a positive. This becomes a negative. So now you've got -7, 2, 5, -6, -1, 4. If you were to type this in, say online, into an assignment, you wouldn't put that plus in there. But I like writing it down so it's easy for me to see. Okay, I'm going to be leaving you guys responsible for the 180-degree one. I just want you to remember that it's X, Y, and then it's 180 degrees. You swap signs on both, and that's it. And so for P prime, it would be 2, 6 is what I would write down. And then I'm going to make it into swap the signs, which makes them both negative since they were already positives. And that would be P prime. you are responsible for finishing Q prime, R prime, S prime. All right, now let's do trapezoid JKLM with these vertices. And it's telling us 270 degrees counterclockwise. I don't want to apply that 90-degree rule 3 different times. So instead, I have to remember, hey, wait, isn't that the same thing as 90 degrees clockwise? Which it is. And so I'm going to write my 90-degree form that I have, which is XY goes to, and then YX. I swap them. My orientation changed. And then it's 90 degrees clockwise, which means we are going to the right. A clock goes to the right. And so that means the one on the right, this value, will swap signs. So here's what we're going to do. I like to write them all in, already swapped. So 3, 4, 6, 4, 8, -1, 1, -1. Okay, and now we have to swap signs on the one on the right. So if we were to do that, this becomes a negative, 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 negative. Okay, and guess what? These would be your final points. It's just a matter of you knowing your rule. If we were in person, then you know what? We would actually be moving the paper around, but I can't exactly move my Chromebook or my iPad around. So this is what we work with. And guess what? It's even easier to do it this way. Just gotta remember. All right, now this one is a bonus. You will not see something like this on a test. Okay, you will see this as a bonus option. So I just want to go over this with you. If you're like, Miss Samdi, I can't do it right now, my brain can't take it, that's okay. You can pause it here and come back to it. Or if you choose not to, you don't have to. But I want to go over this with you guys. It's actually super easy and kind of like what we were doing with the reflections. What you're going to end up doing is you are going to move this, okay? Because it's being moved around the point K, which is at -5, 2. So if I were to sketch this out, -5, 2, that's where K is. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see. -5, 2. We know all of our rules that are rotating, they're about the origin all the way over here. And some of you already know what's happening. You're like, oh no, not this again. It's this again. So pretty much you're going to use a vector, which is what we were doing last time, but we didn't really express it that way. And you're going to move it, translate it back to the origin. So in order to do that, we're going to have to go to the right 5 because we write our x values first. And then we have to go down 2. And that vector is going to take us to the origin. Then we can rotate, and then we're going to have to re-bring it back. And that's going to be by going to the left 5 and to the right 2. Which were our original points, by the way. And that becomes our vector that we work with. And I'm going to move this a little bit to the side, and just since this is just to show you guys what's actually happening. Whoop. There we go. Put it somewhere there. So I am going to write it out like I did last time, and I'm going to write my original points. So I've got A, B, and C. And my original points are -10, -1, -4, 0, and then -9, -6. Okay, so first we have to move it back to the origin. And that's what that vector is up top. So we've got 5, -2. It becomes negative 5, because we're adding 5, and then subtracting 2 from our y value, negative 3. You can work out at one point at a time, or you can do all the x values and then all the y values. That's what I like to do, just because it's easier for me in my brain to just go down the row, down the column, and apply the same rule. All right, so now, move that over a little bit. Now we have to do our actual rotation right here. So our rotation is 180 degrees, meaning we don't have to swap sides. It's staying in the same orientation, so to speak. It's only going to swap sides. So your second step is apply your rotation. It's 180 degrees, so that negative 5 is going to become a 5. That negative 3 becomes a 3. That 1 becomes a negative 1. That negative 2 becomes a positive 2. And then you've got 4, 8. You know, I'm running a little bit out of room, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down. Move the entire thing down. And the reason why I'm doing that, it's going to be easy because I could just write it into my answer right there. And now remember, your last step is going to be to go ahead and now move it back from that point. So undo that vector. So that means we're going to go left 5 and up 2. Left 5, up 2, left 5, up 2. And this right here would be your final answer.